And let's end a story on a great note. Dr. Alan Miller, come on up here. Why don't you just go up there and sit down. If anyone has seen the show we did earlier this week, it was on suicides. And in the middle of that show, for those who weren't here, had a very distress call, distress signal, from a young 16-year-old boy that called himself Joe. And what had happened was that this young man was saying in the next 2 days he was ready to take his life with an overdose of pills. And we had a lot of experts in the audience, among them Dr. Alan Miller from Eugenia Hospital, psychiatrist. And Dr. Miller and others began to help him, and as the discussion went on, we kind of felt here that the best thing that Joe needed at that point was some private conversation. Dr. Miller went and talked to Joe privately, and as we said yesterday, set up an appointment. And what better person to finish the story than Dr. Miller, who's here today. Go ahead.
Yes, well, I think things are working out well. In fact, I know Joe is watching today. I was able to contact him by phone, and the most important thing was that I was able to get him to agree that it was a must that his parents be involved in this. You know, in situations like this, the family is the most important resource. And I was able to talk to both his parents at length, and
they had no idea of what he had been contemplating, and had been contemplating it for some time.
Yeah, he was thinking of this for almost 2 weeks before the airing of the show on Wednesday.
And was very fearful about his parents ever finding out.
That's true. That's true. And, you know, I think it's important to say that, you know, often people don't know how to go to the proper resource, and this show served as a vehicle for that.
Well, I'll tell you, there are lots of things as to why we like to be here, but I can't think of anything better than what resulted in Joe's case.
Anyway, say hi to my pal Maury Povich.
I got a question for Maury, Tom.
Yes, sir.
Of all of the interviews that you've done, one that stands out.
I mean, I can remember, for instance, being on the air when in San Francisco, for instance, when George Moscone as mayor got shot. I mean, I can remember that. I can remember some great moments when the Pope was assassination attempt against the Pope, and you had to go 5 hours straight and things like that. But you know, when it comes right down to it, and Tom, I think, can relate to this. I can remember a show in Philadelphia where I did a show locally at KYW, same station you worked at, on suicides. Yeah. 16-year-old calls up and says, "I'm ready to go." Yeah. And I've got the psychiatrist there, I got the shrink there, and I pause, go to a commercial, and this shrink talks this 16-year-old into not doing anything.
Into living, talks.
Coming down to the station, meeting with the kid, and starting some therapy. And I think it's those little nuggets.
Yeah, exactly right.
That you really stick out, yeah, and you remember.
Not the great ones. I'm glad you called,
Thanks
Richard.
So much.
Dr. Alan Miller has been here before. He is the medical director of the Montgomery County Emergency Service. To us, Alan's kind of a hero, because a couple of years ago here, he was a major factor, I think, in preventing a suicide. I don't want to say common story, but some of the common ingredients of one who is about to commit suicide?
Certainly. More than half of people who end up suiciding are depressed.
Is that why they want to take their lives?
Well, you know, a dozen people can shoot themselves in the head. And if you were able to do a psychological autopsy afterwards, you might find that one was escaping from pain, another was afraid of going insane, a third acted on impulse after a quarrel, a fourth hoped to rejoin a loved one in the hereafter, a fifth was punishing his parents, and so on and so on. There's no one cause and effect.